This is Steve Smith of WCG Patient Radio. WCG is a company focused on the safe, ethical, and efficient conduct of clinical trials. We are speaking today with Bernadette Siddiqi, the Associate Director of Research Partnerships of the Michael J. Fox Foundation, about their use of the CenterWatch iConnect clinical trial search tool that gives members of the public a chance to search for and identify clinical trials they might be interested in participating in. Hello, Bernadette.
Hi, Steve.
Bernadette Siddiqi, you work for the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which people associate, rightly so, with Parkinson's disease. And you are using the CenterWatch iConnect clinical trial search tool in a manner that is helping members of the public interested in Parkinson's clinical trials to find those clinical trials. We are noticing some excitement of patient advocacy groups, both rare disease groups and groups that represent common diseases like Parkinson's disease, and the Alzheimer's Association does this. In the rare disease community, the Rett Syndrome Foundation has recently spoken with us. Tell us about why patient advocacy groups uses this, and specifically, how does the Michael J. Fox Foundation use the CenterWatch iConnect clinical trial search tool?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the foundation has seen since really its inception the need to connect volunteers to clinical research. There really is no amount of funding that can overcome the challenge of identifying participants to enroll in clinical trials. And we know it's a huge bottleneck in the timelines to get treatments to patients. And so over 10 years ago, we recognized that we could help volunteers identify studies by providing a tool through which they could easily search for studies of Parkinson's disease and connect with clinical trials teams. So just this year, we relaunched the tool with iConnect so that we could provide a more friendly, user-friendly experience to our community, our patient community. And so what the tool does is it allows volunteers to go to one website where they can see all the Parkinson's disease trials recruiting for volunteers, and then very easily putting information about themselves, for example, their geography, when they were diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and that will help narrow down for them what trials they may be eligible to participate. So it's really an easy way to connect volunteers to trials that are in critical need of volunteers to test the future treatments for Parkinson's disease.
So that's interesting that you say that it's a bottleneck in clinical research. Patients, of course, and the members of the public who know somebody with Parkinson's disease are very eager to have some kind of a FDA-approved treatment that would only come from a clinical trial. Very eager to have it, and yet you're saying it's sometimes hard for patients to connect with the trials, to find them, and it's hard. I know I've heard for the pharmaceutical companies running trials or the hospitals that manage them to find the patients. Is that what is that true?
Yeah, that's absolutely what we've heard from both the patient and research community. And so, there are some astounding statistics that, over 80% of clinical trials experience delays due to clinical research or finding volunteers for their clinical research. And on top of it, almost 30% never even get off the ground because they can't find a single volunteer. So really, there's a need to connect volunteers or raise awareness about these trials and be able to easily connect them to the trial sites that are looking for volunteers. And that's what we really liked about the iConnect tool, is that with a single click of a button, a volunteer could call or email a trial site about their interest in participating in a clinical trial. So you didn't need to, for example, have to be a patient of these clinical research centers to learn about a clinical trial. That really limits the number of people who can get involved in clinical research if you must be a patient of the actual doctor involved in the research study, right? So what we really wanted to make it is almost to make it a even playing ground for anyone to get involved in clinical research. So regardless of who your doctor was or where you were going to receive care, you could go to one, website and learn about trials, regardless of who your physician was.
So I know it's I believe the mission of the Michael J. Fox Foundation to promote clinical research to try to find someday or lead someday to a treatment. And you do this not only by raising money and giving it to lots of different researchers, but also creating a lot of education and information to try to create a community of people that understands Parkinson's. Is that a correct way to state what the Michael J. Fox Foundation is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do see ourselves as a research foundation. We're the largest nonprofit funder of Parkinson's research. But we realize that if research is going to reach its ultimate goal of finding a treatment and a cure for Parkinson's disease, there's also an important component of educating the patient community about what is research, right? And if there's no understanding about how treatments are created and the need for clinical trials, then it's very hard to motivate a community to get behind trials and raise their hands to participate. So we realize it's not simply about just funding research. We also have a role to play in educating people about the importance of research, and then not only about educating, but making it easy for them to find a study to get involved in. And that's why we, love the iConnect tool, because it's not only just about education, but really having a tool to direct people towards so that they can find the right research study for them.
And I was just hearing that very similar thing from the Rett Syndrome Foundation. Rett syndrome is a rare disease, and they were pointing out that there's so many years that they've worked as a foundation to try to get pharmaceutical companies to even have clinical trials to try to find a treatment. And then they discovered their patient community is unaware of the value of enrolling in those trials. And if trials fail to enroll, they could be canceled. And in a rare disease, that's especially bad because there aren't that many companies interested.
Right.
And in your case, it's something parallel to that, very common disease, but you have a lot of trials and need a lot of participants. So you're pushing out through the online, everybody can get it website of educational information. Seems like it would make a big difference.
Yeah, and we're in a fortunate place. The foundation's actually celebrating its 20th year anniversary this year. And, speaking to some of my colleagues who were there on day one, there certainly weren't that many clinical trials for Parkinson's disease 20 years ago. And we are in a very exciting point in Parkinson's research. Just looking today, there's over 380 clinical trials that are listed on the Fox Trial Finder iConnect tool, which is very exciting. But I agree with our colleagues at the Rett Syndrome Foundation, where you do want to make sure that we're not leaving effective treatments on, the lab shelf. We hate to think that a treatment is not going to get into a patient's hands because a clinical trial couldn't meet its enrollment goal. And so that's why we think it's important to have a way for people to easily find clinical research and be able to connect with those trials that are in need of volunteers.
That's wonderful. And there are people who might want to be in a clinical trial who have Parkinson's, and it could be the trial is going to be the first place they get medicine, since nothing's approved yet. So when something finally does get approved, it's those who have been in the trial that will have had it first.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a common thing that's overlooked is sometimes we say the first person who will be cured of Parkinson's disease will be in a clinical trial. And so it's really important for us to show the general community at large that this is, the process through which we find effective treatments for Parkinson's disease, but any disease, as our the world is learning now with COVID vaccine trials, that this is the process through which treatments are developed. I think we had an incredible timeline with the COVID vaccine treatment development. But, as you know, that's not the usual timeline for creating treatments for other diseases. And so we need to accelerate that process as much as we can. And if it's making people more aware of active clinical trials, then, as the Fox Foundation, we think that's an important role for us to take on.
And how's it working? Are you having a lot of people every month looking at the site?
Yeah, so we've seen a really great success. So one of a strong indicator for us about the success of the tool is that, as I mentioned before, volunteers can call or email a trial site directly if they're interested in participating. And we've seen about 700 emails to trial sites each month, which compared to our former tool, that has been a 66% increase since we launched the new iConnect Fox Trial Finder. So we're really pleased to see that level of engagement by our volunteer community. I think it's a strong indicator when people take action and reach out to sites that the tool is performing to what we wanted it to do.
Well, this is very encouraging to hear this, and inspiring the way the Michael J. Fox Foundation has made clinical trial search and identification something that anybody can do, and furthermore, they can do it for free, and they can do it in the comfort of their own home. And I'm hoping other patient advocacy groups also check this out and know they can put a link to this on their websites too, and they can provide it free to the public. This is just wonderful. Thank you for speaking with us today, Bernadette Siddiqi.
Thank you, Steve.
We have been speaking today with Bernadette Siddiqi, the Associate Director of Research Partnerships of the Michael J. Fox Foundation. This is Steve Smith from WCG Patient Radio. Special thanks to our producer, Lauren Osmore, our production team, Isabel Andresen, Roxana Guilford-Blake, Technical Director David Fogel, and Head of Studio, Amy Hutnick. Goodbye, everybody.